Hakol Kesherin, we're on Daf Chof Beis and Beis of the Mishna. Hakol Kesherin lichtiv is a get. Everybody's allowed to write a get. Even a Cherushayt and Katan, people don't have das, people don't have any understanding. Ha'isha Kesevis is Gita, Ha'isha Kesevis Shovrei. A woman is allowed to write her get, and then Rashi says she gives it over to the husband who gives it back to her. And the husband is allowed to write the shover, the receipt that he paid the ksuba. When you become a get, it's with the signatures.
But that's why everybody's allowed to write it.
Right. That's why you're allowed to write it, exactly. So the Gemara asks a question. By get there's a din that it has to be lishma. The chostav law, you should write it for the woman. How could a cherush shaytlin katan write a get if they're not b'nei dayan? They're not able to write a lishma. A gadol has to stand on top of them, and he tells him, write it for so and so. Rav Huna holds that our Mishna is Rav Elazar. That holds that you need the ksiva lishma and the Masira karti. So why does it say in the end of the Mishnah, Ein Kim Hageta L'B'choy Smov? That's not Rav Elazar. That's Eid Masira. Later of Nachman. Rav Nachman told Rav Huna, so why is it not kosher if there's a guy who's writing the get and a yid is standing on top of him? If you're going to try to say that that is the case, but Tanya, it says in the bright side, a non-Jew is not allowed to write a get. So the Gemara answers, he's doing it for himself. Because he's a godel with das, says Rashi, and even if somebody's telling him to do it for so-and-so, maybe he wants to do it for someone else. But a katan that doesn't have das, he's going to do it for the person who's he's being told to do it for.
Yeah, this question
Who's a what?
Who's a katan?
Oh, interesting. What do you know? Godel is a katan. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know the answer. So the Gemara goes on. Hold the Omer of Nachman, Lav Milsi Damri. Then Rav Nachman said, Lav Milsa. What I said is Lav Milsa. Demi the Kapose Leilav Gechovin Linin Habo, Mechad Linin Ksiva Kosher. This that I said that an Oiv Kopim is not allowed, it's not true. Oiv Kopim is allowed. He says like this. He says, B'chalal, the Ksivo is not the main part of the get. Our mission is not according to Rabbi Elazar. Our mission is according to Rabbi Meir. That the Ksivo, that the get is the Chsima. The main part of the get is the Chsima. So from the fact that it says a guy is not allowed to bring it, Havo, because he's not allowed to be a shliach for something he's not shaykh. A guy doesn't have marriage or divorce. By ksiva, it doesn't say anything. By havo, it says that he's not allowed to bring. By ksiva, it doesn't say if he's allowed or not allowed. It's a raya that he is allowed. So the Gemara asks, what do you mean? How can you say that it says that it doesn't mention a guy writing it? It says clearly that he's not allowed to write a get. Here, Rabbi Elazar, that's the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, who says it's the Eid Masira Karti and the Ksiva. When it says V'chosav, it's talking about the Ksiva and the Masira. So therefore, the guy is not allowed to write it because you have to have Ksiva Lishma, like we said, he does it for himself. But if we would be talking about Rabbi Meir, our mission is according to Rabbi Meir, the Chsima Karti, so then it would be fine. Even a guy would be allowed to write it.
Guy would be allowed to write it?
To write a get, according to that opinion, yeah.
Oh.
And really, Yisrael doesn't have to be Eimed al-Gabov. A Yid does not have to stand on top of them.
Oh.
The Gemara goes on. Omer of Nachman, Omer Hayir Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir would say, Afilu mitzvah ba'ashma chos mevnasim lakasher. Rabbi Meir says, Ad kedei kach ede chesima karti. The chesima is the most important thing, that it be found in the garbage and it was written with the right names, in the right places, and you signed it for her, that would be fine.
Go with that one because it has to be written in Shema for her and for him. You can't put the same names if there's two people that in the same city.
I guess Rabbi Meir holds. Rabbi Meir. Oh, we'll see in a second. Yeah, the Gemara's gonna ask that question. Next question.
Somebody's coffee's on that.
Yeah, I know. It's the second part of my coffee.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cup and a bit.
I see.
Eisvei Rav Nachman. Rav asked Rav Nachman this question, what my father just asked. V'chosav lo lishma says clearly in the pasuk v'chosav lo, which means lishma. So my love ksivas a get. How could you say if you find it in the garbage it's okay? What do you mean? You have to write the get lishma. Lo yichsimas eidim. When it says v'chosav lo, it's referring to the eidim. The eidim have to sign lishma, but it's not referring to the writing of the get. Eisvei Rava. Another question that Rava asks Rav Nachman. It says, "Kol get shenichtav shaloi lishum isha pasuk." If a get was not written for the sake of the woman, it's possible. You have to change the word instead of nichtav to nechtam. It's interesting that we have to answer that. Tosfos says, what do you mean? Why don't we just say it's Rabbi Lazar? And not only that, Tosfos says, Adarabba, if you look in the Mishna over there, it's clearly like Rabbi Lazar. Nevertheless, as much as possible, you want to try to make it fit with Rabbi Meir because the din is a stam Mishna as Rabbi Meir. So that's what Tosfos explains. So the Gemara says, Eisvei, it says, Kishu kaisvei ilu kaisvei lishma. It says in the pasuk, when he's writing it, even if it's partially lishma, it's as if it's fully lishma. My love, Kishu kaisvei l'toidif, lishma kilu kaisvei l'toidif lishma. Probably means when he's writing the toidif, which is the details, lishma. It's also, even when he's writing the regular text of the get, it's also lishma. That's what we mean by mixas. Says the Gemara, no. Like when he's signing it, it's as if he's writing it lishma. Signing it is enough according to Rabbi Meir. So that's the second way of looking at it. The second way of looking at our Mishna is that we're talking about Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, so anyone can write the get, even a guy. So then I guess you have the question, why didn't we say anything about a guy? I don't see anybody who deals with it. People say Mahani Masnisan Mani Rabbi Elazar, he dominated the Mesir Karti. Third way of looking at it, which is going back to the original way, which is this is the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, says Eda Mesir Karti. Revealed over Shmuel, Eda Mesir Karti. But revealed over Shmuel, Vushashir became a Torah. So the first way of looking at it, the first answer was that the person wrote it, the Cher Sheto Katan wrote it with a Gadol Emil Gabov. The hardest one is probably maybe the Cherish. I guess somehow you communicate, however you communicate with the Cherish, maybe you point and so on and so forth. And there's a Gadol Emil Gabov, so therefore it's okay. And that we had the question, what about the Goy? So we wanted to say that a Goy does it for himself. So my father asked, what about a Goy is a Katan? Maybe we're not going to differentiate between different types of Goyim. Could be. That might be the answer. And then we answered it's Rabbi Meir. The third answer is, it's Rabbi Lazar, but you just left out the part with the names. We're talking about you wrote the Toifus and not the Toiduf. You wrote the text and not the actual part with the names. It's that you left out the part of the Toiduf and it's the opinion of Rabbi Lazar. So that's the third answer. The Ben Das wrote the Toiduf, so there's no God Leimed al Gav. But Rav Zika says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, ain't a Torah. This is not a good answer. Ma'in a Torah. What does he mean? And he says, ain't a Torah. Amar Rabbi Abba kana diacher she'ein koyach lishma. There's no koyach lishma. In our Mishnah, we're telling you that the main thing is the chesima. Rabbi Meir he damar the chesima kart. So he didn't like the answer to say it's Rabbi Lazar. No, our Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir, the Mishnah is telling us the chesima kart. Rabbi Bar Bachan, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Lazar. He didn't Rabbi Bar Bachan say the name of Rabbi Yochanan that our Mishnah is Rabbi Lazar, which would again we would have to go to those two answers, either that there's a Gadol Emil Gavav or that they wrote the Torah. The Gemara answers Amiroi Nina Valiba de Rabbi Yochanan. There's two Amiroim Valiba de Rabbi Yochanan. I have to understand exactly what that answer means. that they have two, they're each saying something else in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. How is that possible? I'm not sure. I mean, it's a very, very oft quoted answer. Today I'll be really Nino, I'll leave it to Rabbi Yochanan. All right, we're on the next Mishnah. So we spoke now in the first Mishnah about ksivas get, writing the get. Now we're talking about havoas get, to bring a get. Here's where we bring in the guy. Everybody's allowed to bring a get, except for a summa, a blind person, and a goy. Let's say a kotan, he's not allowed to bring a get, so he received it in order to bring it, but then he got older. He became a bar mitzvah in the middle of his shlichus. Chedesh when the Chedesh all of a sudden somehow started hearing and talking. Summa when he started seeing. How often do you think that happens? Whatever, I guess. Shoyte when he became regular. When he's gayer, it's possible because he got the get when he wasn't allowed to bring it, even if in the middle before he gives it to the woman, they get better, it doesn't help. But if we're talking about a pikeach, it becomes a chedesh and then a pikeach again. He became a chedesh after he received. When he received the get from the husband, he was a pikeach. Then he became a chedesh, but before he gave it to the woman, he became pikeach again. Or patuach when he stav v'chos when he spatach, shofei when he shtata v'chos when he shtapo. Kosher, that's okay. Ze'aklal kosher tchilos v'sefer b'das kosher. As long as the tchila, which was when he was mikabel the get, and the soif when he was nice in the get, when he gave it to the woman, was bekashrus, was when he was okay. It's kosher, it's fine. The Gemara says like this: makes sense. They're not allowed to bring a get because they're not b'nei deo. Rashi says when it comes to shlichus, you need ish. And it says about the carbon pesach, ish one person would take for the whole family. So that's the din of shlichus. It specifically says ish, and a cotton is not an ish. And I guess ish also teaches us maybe it's interesting that Rashi says we got shlichus ish being and v'loy cotton. The Gemara is talking specifically about not being b'nei deo. So ish is being memayit that you have to be a bardas, someone who has intellect. A goy doesn't have kiddushin, doesn't have gittin. Something you can't do a shlichus for somebody else. Why not a blind person? What's the problem with a blind person to bring a get? He doesn't know who he's taking from and who he's giving it to. Rav Yosef asks a question. I think Rav Yosef was blind at a certain point. How is a summa allowed to be with his wife? How are people allowed to be with their wives at night? They recognize the voice. So to hear, they could recognize. Blind people also could know. There's ways to know. The Summa has to be able to say, talking about where specifically he has to be able to say, and a blind person can't say that. If that's the whole problem, says Abaya, someone who started off with sight and then he became blind before he was noisen to the wife, he should be able to give the get because he was kosher. It only says it's kosher if you started off with seeing and ended with seeing. Only if you ended off seeing. But if you didn't end off seeing, it's not okay. So we see it's not okay in such a case. According to you, Rav Yosef, why not? Our answer is really, even if you started off seeing, that's the main thing. Even if you don't end off seeing, it's fine. Once we're talking about the shoita, that he does have to be normal before he gives it to the wife. Time the chazam nishtapa haloi. Time the chazam nishtapa haloi. Haloi chazam nishtapa haloi. If he didn't become normal, then not. So too with the summa, we mentioned that he has to be able to see, but he doesn't really have to be able to see. Homer Ravashi doesn't have to be able to see when he's nice in Laisha. He just has to be able to see when he's makabel from the husband, when he receives from the husband. Homer Ravashi Dikkanam Diktoni. If you look carefully in the Mishnah, it says it says anybody that they start off and they end off with das kosher. The main thing is your intellect. Like to kosher but kashrus kosher. So no, when it comes to seeing, it doesn't really matter. You could be blind when you give it to the wife. The main thing is to receive it from the husband, to be able to say b'fanei nichtam b'fanei nechtam. Shmami no. Very interesting deal. We're on the bottom of Daf Chof Gimel Amud Aleph 23a, 2 lines on the bottom. They asked a question from Mami. Evid, could an Evid, the slave of a woman, no, sorry, sir. An Evid of anybody, can he become a shliach for a woman from her husband?
That's a Jewish slave?
Evid Kanani. Evid Kanani. Evid Ivri is like a regular Jew. Can an Evid be a shliach? That's the question. This is a question from Rabbi. He told the people who asked him the question, but the fact that we say a goy is not allowed to bring a get, it's a raya that an Evid is kosher. It's interesting because an Evid doesn't either have. Evid doesn't really either have Gittin or Kedusha. Ravasi says in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, no. What do you mean? He's just like a guy in that regard. He doesn't have Gittin and Kedushin. He doesn't have the dinim of marriages. So how could he be a shliach? This is a different opinion. Maski Flo Rabbi Lozer asked the question: is time of b'milsa delays? The reason is because he doesn't have it. Because he doesn't have Gittin and Kedushin. That's why he can't be the shliach lekabbalah or lehalacha, to accept it, to receive. B'milsa, do you say kosher? You're going to tell me that if he does have it, something that does apply to him, he's going to be kosher to be a shliach. And Rashi explains, for example, truma. An eved is not allowed to eat tevel. He can't eat untithed produce. And if he has tevel that was given to him, you're allowed to give an eved a gift. If you give the eved a gift, you just say this is a gift. It goes automatically to his master. But you could give the eved a gift in condition that his master doesn't have any ownership over it, which is interesting. How could he do such a thing? Then he has to separate truma. He's just like a woman. So is an eved allowed to be a shliach for truma? A goy and a kuti that they have truma. If a goy and a kuti separate truma, it's considered truma and it's not allowed. Someone who's not a kohen is not allowed. It's not allowed to have from it. Rashi explains the opinion is that even though theoretically he's not shaykh in truma and maisus, because if we're talking about in Eretz Yisrael, that he doesn't have the ability to take away from the kedushas meiser and hektish, from kedushas meiser, and his hektish is hektish. But it says also, if a guy is a shliach for Yisrael to separate his truma, it's not considered truma. My time because it says gamatem. Gamatem tarim trumas. Pasuk is Kein tarimu gamatem trumas Hashem mikol ma'asesechem v'shatichum meis min Yisrael. Gamatem, also your shliach also, it's including shluchim. Ma'atem Yisrael av shluchachem Yisrael. Just like you have to be a Yisrael, so too the shliach has to be Yisrael. So l'choiro, you should also be b'mayit and eved. It's interesting because we brought up many times before, is an eved considered a Yisrael? From this Gemara, it sounds like not exactly. Even though he's chayiv and mitzvahs like an isha, but he's not considered a full-fledged Jew. Amri devei Rabbi Yanai loy ma'atem b'nei bris af shluchachem b'nei bris. You just have to be b'nei bris. And Amilo, even though he's not considered a Yisrael, he's definitely b'nei bris. He had a bris Milo, and he goes to mikvah. An Eved cannot be a shliach. So we already mentioned Reb Asi in the name of Rabbi Yechanan. Now we're saying Reb Chia Bar Abba in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, that an Eved cannot be a shliach to Mekabel Get Yishim Yad Baila because he's not B'teres Gittin B'Kedushin. V'al B'Pisha Shaninu Harei Ad Shivcho Valdich Ben Choyre. Even though we taught that if somebody says, if somebody tells his maidservant, you're a shivcha and your child is going to be free, if she was an ubra. And what happens? Ubra zoch saloi. She's zeicha for her child to be free. So we see clearly that she's able to be zeicha for her child. So the Gemara asks the question, what's the connection? Over there it's shichur. Over there it has to do with freedom. To free the child, to free the vlad, to free the baby. That's something else. That's different. Why are you comparing it to get the Isha? He said two things. An Eved is allowed to receive a get shichur, a document of freedom for his friend from his friend's master, but not from his own master. Because he doesn't have a separate hand from his master. His hand is like his master's hand. And if you're going to ask, what do you mean a woman is allowed to free her baby? So what's the difference if the two avodim from the same master, why can't he free the second Eved? Just like a woman who's a slave of this master is able to free her son. There was two greats, the giants of the generation who explained this from Zeta, from Shmuel Bar Rav Yitzchak Chadamar Homani Rabbi. One opinion is that this is the opinion of Rebbe, Domar Mashachrer Chatzi Avdei Kona. Someone who frees half his servant, the Eved gets that half. So the Uber is like half, it's like Yerushami. And the other opinion explained what he meant. The Uber is not Chatzi Gufay. It is Chatzi Gufay because Uber Yerushami. This is where abortion gets complicated because we say Uber Yerushami. Still doesn't make it okay. Thinking if we should go. One second, let me just check to see how much. Oh, we did this.
I was gone for a minute. Is this saying that master can free half of the servant?
Well, no, we said that if you have one Eved from one master, he can accept a get shichur for an Eved from a second master, but not from the same master because he doesn't have a different yad than his master. He doesn't have a different hand than his master. So if he's receiving it from his master, it's as if the master is giving it from one hand to the other. It's not going to help. But our question is, what do you mean? It says if a master tells a woman, this is the get for your Uber, it does work. She is able to receive her Uber. That's the same thing as one Eved receiving for the other Eved. So we answer because Uber Yerushami, the Uber is like her leg, her limb. So it's as if she's receiving for half of herself. That you're allowed to do.
So again, a master is allowed to free half of his servant.
A master is allowed to free half of his servant. Yeah. He's allowed to free. See, how does that even work? How do you free it? What happens when you're halfway free? How does that even make sense?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're free. Tuesday, Thursday, you're another.
Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. I mean, we know the famous case of partners. That's a classic case, but here we're not talking about that. Here we're talking about someone freeing half of his servant. It's a good point. Like, how does it work? Tosfos actually asks, ultimately, if your hand is not free, so how you're freeing any other part of your body? The hand that's receiving is considered like the hand of the master. So how does it even help? Okay, I think maybe we'll do Yerushami. Didn't do that much. Yerushami, yeah. We're on Halacha Daled.
I've got it this time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. We're on page Yud Aleph, Halacha Daled. Ein koisvim b'mechuber l'karka. You're not allowed to write on something that's attached to the ground because of an osin. You have to write it and give it. You can't be kosvei tolshe and so on. Kosim mechuber tolshe v'chosmei b'nosei lo kosher. Let's say b'diavad, you wrote it and then you ripped it off and signed it after, then it's okay.
It's okay, right? If we do that,
What?
it's okay.
Then it's
Sign
okay.
that.
Yeah.
But the signing is the main thing, right?
The signing is the main thing according to
Not
this
the
opinion.
writing.
Signing is the main thing according to this opinion. The way the Carbonata explains is that we're talking about actually the Torah. Signing is actually meaning the Torah, the details of the woman. That's what the Pnei Moshe also says. So our mission is according to Rabbi Elazar. But Rabbi Yehuda Paisal should take Sivasa v'Chasimasa b'Tolish. Rabbi Yehuda says no, you have to do the ganze Zach. Everything has to be done when it's Tolish. All the details of the get, the Toifus and the Torah. In case when you're not allowed to write on paper that has already been erased or on difter, or that you're able to erase it easily without telling. Because it can be forged. Say it's kosher. You're not allowed to write on what's attached to the ground. This fits with Rabbi Yochanan. This fits with Rabbi Yochanan. This doesn't argue with Rabbi Yochanan. The Rabbi Yochanan kosav tarfei b'toifes kosher. Rabbi Yochanan said that if you wrote the Torah with the toifes, it's kosher. So you're not allowed. According to Rabbi Yochanan, our Mishna could be according to Rabbi Meir. It's not what we explained, what I just explained. Rather, we'll say it's Rabbi Meir that the chesima is the main thing. So if you write the Torah from the toifes, you shouldn't write the Torah from the toifes if it's mechuber l'karka. But if you do write the Torah and the toifes, as long as the chesima, when we say chesima, it literally means chesima, is done, it's kosher. Rishlakish Amar Kosav Tarfei b'toifes, possible. Rishlakish says you have to leave the Torah. He says our mission is like Rabbi Elazar, the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar. Edim Mesira Karti. The Kosav law is talking about writing her name, and her name also has to be done when it's tolush, not when it's mechuber. But if you wrote the toifes and then you wrote the Torah after you ripped it, that's kosher. The Pnei Moshe, he points out that in the Bavli we explain the opposite. That Rish Lakish says that our mission is talking about that you signed it after, and Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says that we're talking about that you wrote the Torah after you ripped it off. Shmuel Barab asked a question. Kosvei v'chosmei betolish. What if you wrote it and signed it when it's tolush? Chibrei v'tolshe v'nosin lama. So it's interesting. The Yerushami has these interesting questions, and then you reattached it. He has a different.
How do you reattach it?
What? How do you reattach it?
Again?
I mean, you can't reattach it like when it comes to nature, but you reattached it. You glued it on. What would be the din in such a case?
Put on crazy glue.
Omar Rabbi Yehuda. Ma Omar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says everything has to be done b'tolush. What would be the din? And we have a similar question. Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Avin boy kosvei v'chosmei b'tolish chibra b'tolshe chibra tolshe v'chosmei v'nosan lama amrim baraban. There's a different gear, so Moshe changes the gear, so they both change the gear. So kosvei b'tolish. If he wrote a b'tolish, then chibra chosmei b'tolshe v'nosan lama amrim baraban, and then you were mechavret. You're choisim and tolshu v'nosnala. What would the chacham say? The chacham say the chesima has to be betolish. So the question is, if you're mechavret again, is it a problem or not? If you reattached it, is it a problem or not? That's the question. Omer Rabbi Elazar. So we have machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda ben Meir and the chacham about when it comes to when it comes to if you're able to forge. So the Gemara doesn't answer this question actually, or it doesn't have an answer. And both of them actually have more. We'll just see what they say in the back. The Pnei Moshe and the Karban Aido, they discuss a little bit more. According to the Rashba, it's a problem. That's what he points out. The Shiyori HaKarpan, that would be an issue. According to the Pnei Moshe, he explains it in a different way than I said. Let's say you wrote it while it was detached, then you planted the branch in the ground and it took root again. So that's how you can have chibra again, not with crazy glue. You literally planted it again in the ground.
It wasn't completely severed.
It was completely severed, then you replanted it and it took root again. So Yerushami doesn't have an answer. Going back to the Machlokes in the Mishna about ziyuf, about being mezayif, about forgery. Is there a problem with forgery? There's a Machlokes. According to the Chacham, it's okay. According to Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yehuda said it's not okay. Rabbi Elazar mapligim begittin, the Machlokes is specifically about a get. You're not allowed to have a ksav sheyochal his daif, because the main thing is the eidich sima. Masha'inkin, according to the Chachamim, they hold like Rabbi Elazar, the Mesira Karti, whatever they see as the Nesinas Aget, as the get is given, they're going to remember. But Aval B'shtaris, Uf Rabbi Yehuda Maida. When it comes to Ashtar, Rabbi Yehuda will be Maida that it's kosher, even if it's on a diftera and so on. This is Rabbi Elazar. The Posel Ashtar ala Cholak Ve'edav ala Mechik explains that our Mishnah is talking about the shtar is on the niyar. No, the shtar is on the cholak and the edim is on the mechek. And why by shtar shtaris would it be okay? You wrote it in a certain way that in between the edim, between each edim, they wrote we the edim signed on mechek. And the shtar on the niyar. So in such a way, there's a way to do it so that you're not going to have an issue. It's the same machlokes that we had by a get. Are you allowed to write in something which could be forged? It's also a machlokes when it comes to a shtar. And he's talking about, Rish Lakish says, our Mishnah is talking about the shtar is on the mechek and the edim is on the cholak. So the chacham will be machshir. The reason why the chacham will be machshir is because you're going to be able to tell by a get. They say it's going to be hard to forge on the get if you erase once or twice. And the main thing is Edim Mesira Karte, like we said. The kasha al the Rabbi Elazar in be'edim ala mechik bedoch chacham machshirim. Rish Lakish has a question, Rabbi Elazar. If you're going to say that our Mishnah talking about that the shtar is on the get, you could erase and you could write what you want. The Chacham or Mishnah are referring to Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Elazar. See in the Yerushami it says Rabbi Eliezer, but it's Rabbi Elazar who holds it's the Mesira Karti, so therefore you don't have a problem. A forgery, like we explained before. Shmuel says the whole thing is on erased paper. Yos Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda said a good shot. What's the reason of the Chum? Why are you not worried about a forgery? It's different if you erase something once or twice. So they hold even if it's erased paper, it's okay, it's fine. I mean that deals with the erased paper. What about the diphthera? Not sure. Okay, now we're up to the next Mishnah. We're in the part that we were learning today. And everybody's allowed to write a get, even if you're a cheder shet of a kata. A woman writes her get, and the husband writes his shoiver. Shein kima get the kima get is b'chaisma with the signatures. A kol kshein l'havi is a get chutz b'chei shet v'katan suma v'nochri. Everybody's allowed to bring a get except for a chaydish shet to katan suma and nochri, a blind person and a guy. A kol kshein l'chtiv is a get v'chulu, says the Yerushami. If it's only if there's a pikech standing on top of him and teaching him how to write. That's exactly what we said in the Bavli. How could you have pikech ayman al gabov? The ksiva has to be lishma. So how is it going to help? Therefore, Shmuel says you actually are not allowed to write. They cannot write the Torah. They have to leave out the Torah, the part which you have to do lishma. This fits with what Rish Lakish said, that if you wrote the Torah with the Toifus, it's possible. You have to leave out the Torah, and only then is it okay. They're only allowed to write the Toifus. That's what our Mishnah is saying according to Shmuel. We're on the next Mishnah. Kibala get kibala katan v'higdil. If the katan received the get and then he got older before he gave it to the woman, chedesh v'nispakach, a chedesh received it and he got normal. Suba v'nispatach, the blind person was able to see. Shoyta v'nishtapa, nocher v'nisgayer, puzzle. Av bekech shenischar sh'chazim v'nispakach, pitech shenistam v'chazim v'nispatach, shofei shenishtata v'chazim v'nishtapa, kosher. Zeh klal kosher tchilos b'sefer b'das kosher. As long as the beginning and the end is b'das, you're good. Kibul hakotan v'higdil v'chulu. Also uvda kaimer Rabimi. There is a story in front of Rabimi. Be'eved shevis a get. What happens with an eved that brings a get? And kosher, he said it's fine. We had this machlokes in the Bavli just now. How can you say kosher? We have a brisa that Reb Chia says an eved that brings a get is possible. He says, if not for Rabbi is Reb Abba, we would have almost been matir eishasish to say that an eved is allowed to bring a get. That we would have been nichshal. We would have stumbled and said such a thing. Afilu teimar leishmir rabasi hadod detani Reb Chia leishmir mileim de rabbanon. The Gemara is asking on Rabasi, even if he didn't hear the brayso of Reb Chia, what about the Chachamim? Nishmina min ado. There's a famous saying, that an eved is allowed to receive a get shikhr for somebody else's eved, not if they both belong to the same ish, and not a get isha. He thought to say it's only lechatchila, but the eved, they're allowed, an eved is allowed to be mekabel. So there's a story that happened with the kehanis that there wasn't even a problem with the reach psul. She was allowed to stay with her husband, even though grusha is not allowed to be with a kohen, because the eved received her get. There is no problem whatsoever. An eved does not have any ability to receive a get for a woman. I guess maybe we'll just finish. It's only a few more lines till the end of the Perek. We probably could have finished also in the Bavli. Even the women who were not believed to say that their husband died. In other words, you have certain women, 5 women that we learned about in Yavamis and Ksubis, that they have a hateful relationship with let's say they're testifying about a certain woman's husband that she died. They're not believed, rivals and so on. Nemonis lahavias gita, they're allowed to bring a get. What are the 5 women? Chamaisa, her mother-in-law. Uvas Chamaisa, the daughter of her mother-in-law, which is her sister-in-law. Bitsarasa, her rival. Biyavimta, the wife of her husband's brother. Uvas Baila, her stepdaughter, her husband's daughter. So what's the difference? Get lamisa. Why are they not believed to say the husband died, but they are believed with the get? Shaksav mechiach. By get, there's a document. Because there's a document, the document proves. If a woman is allowed to say, to bring her own get, she just has to say, Half an osh from Shane, I want to slim maze by Lachulu. I feel a nichta v'le nechtam. Ma minu noiso. Says Shaksav mechiach. The fact is, we are relying on her words. Would you believe her if it was nichta v'le nechtam? But even if it's nechtam, of course we believe. Of course we're relying on it. We're relying on her to say nechtam. So why don't we worry? Why are we not worried that she's lying? These 5 women, just because there's a document, we still need her word. I'm going to be saying, but Rabbain Kaya Demar Rabhavin. Rabbain said it's like what Rabhavin said. In the beginning of our Perek, when it comes to the husband, when you have to say b'fana nechtam, why do you have to say b'fana nechtam? Because you believe the shliach like 2 Eidim. And if the Baal is going to come, maybe the husband is going to sign with false witnesses. We're not worried that he's going to try to mess her over b'dei shemayim. We're worried that he's going to try to mess her over in Bezdin. Where the husband's going to try to stop her from getting married. Because he knows that we're not going to believe him, he's going to be mechasim with Eidim Kshedim. Here also, we're not worried that she's going to lie, because she knows that even if the husband's going to come and be ma'ara, it's not going to help. She's believed to say b'fana nichtam. She's not going to lie. She's going to say the truth. The moment she says it, she's going to be sealed and signed. She's going to say the truth. Just like the husband, we don't believe him if he comes afterwards. So too we believe her. It's a little different. It's a very interesting connection. Haga she osas esas shonim b'reimi v'nisas. It says in our Mishna, a woman is allowed to bring her get. She has to say b'fana nechtam. Let's say she was divorced in Rome in a faraway place. She's going to be in other words, when the get comes to her hand, it's an interesting question. The way the Pnei Moshe explains, the moment the get comes to her hand, she should be divorced. So she goes to Rome, for example. Why should she not be allowed to get married? Why should she have to say b'fana nichtam, b'fana nechtam? Why does that make sense? From the moment the Kabbalah said get, she should be. Why does she even have to bring it to Bezdin? Why do you don't have to bring your get to Bezdin? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan bas Nisa geshamul al tigar she'elav b'mkeim plei. Our Mishnah is talking about. He told her you have to get divorced in a certain place and tell it to Bezdin. So he made her like a shliach, sort of. That's why. That's only in that case that she have to say b'fanech b'fanech. Hadun aloch Perek maybe get continued.